just got a text from Joey. He's in the basement and he found one of my old diaries and it has a boy's name in it, and he texted me like, "Who is?" A bunch of mad faces. That's so funny. Finally sitting down to talk about postpartum after stillbirth. So this time I'm just doing it sitting in bed, a little comfy, lazy day. Yeah, so kind of, I guess, going pretty much leaving the hospital to her due date is mostly kind of like what I'll talk about. And so I went in on a Wednesday on September 15th, had her that Wednesday, September 15th, and then I had to stay in the hospital due to having to have blood transfusions. I finally was able to go home Friday. I mentioned in the previous video, it's sharing that story, how they timed it perfectly. The hospital where me and Sailor left at the exact same time could not have gone better, because that was obviously very bittersweet leaving, because I was looking forward to going home to my other babies, but you know, I had to hand her over for the last time. So that kind of started my postpartum journey. So I went home. Sailor actually was transported to the same affiliated hospital but downtown Chicago to get her autopsy. So she went there for her autopsy, which I believe they performed that Monday, and then I believe they then brought her back to the hospital that I delivered her at, and then the funeral home came and picked her up from there to bring her back to their funeral home. That was like another thing, is having to make those funeral home arrangements. We had to make those while I was in labor. Yeah, so that's when that all started. We decided on a funeral home kind of based off that they charged nothing for cremation, which was pretty incredible. Other places like charged. So, it was just incredible that they did that free of charge, and kind of like, obviously nobody should ever have to cremate a baby, so I think that it just speaks volume on, how big of a heart that the owner has. So that was a huge weight lifted off of us, because having to spend costs on now a dead baby is just not fun, not planned for. It's not like you get to buy a new car seat or stroller or clothes. It's cremation and an urn. So we picked that, and then once the funeral home had her back, Joey and I went to meet with the funeral director, who was also the owner, and she was such a kind lady, just very sincere and genuine. We had to sign papers for like it to be legal for them to cremate her, and as well as we discussed an urn option. They were also like very kind and open, that like she was like, you could literally go buy an urn off of Amazon, like you don't have to buy it out of like one of our magazines, because we were kind of like trying to look for something specific, and we wanted to do yellow or something with sunflowers, but that was really difficult to find. We ended up going with like a little purple heart, which I'll insert a picture. I know I've shown it before, but a little purple heart, because purple's my favorite color. So that was the significance there. And so yeah, so we did all that, and then while we were there, at that point, like, we had already said our goodbye in the hospital, and at that point when we were there, she offered if we wanted to spend some time with Sailor. It caught Joey and I so off guard. Neither of us were prepared for that. And like, I mean, she was like, we wouldn't open like her little box or anything. It would just like, you could just spend time with her box. But we both kind of like looked at each other and we were like, we weren't really expecting to spend more time with her, so that would have just been a little more difficult. So we both agreed upon that. You know, I think we agreed upon with each other though too in that moment, like, if you want to spend time with her, like, you can, but like, I've kind of already said my goodbye. Loved that funeral home so much. We got our purple heart from the urn from Amazon, and like, they were totally fine with that. Like, it wasn't like they made you feel bad for doing that and not buying one through their catalog or anything, so it was very sweet. The whole process was really easy, which thank gosh, because not anything we wanted to deal with. So we did that. I think it was like a week after we signed those papers and whatnot, we went and picked up her ashes, and that was just, of course, like a very short, like, we just had to wait for them to put them. We brought the urn, they put the ashes in like in a separate room, and then came and brought us her, and we went home, and that was it. I wrote them like a thank you card because I just wanted them to know like how much it actually meant to us that they did all that for free. It was huge. It was like early October. I went by myself to pick up her death certificate. They had to like kind of order that, so they didn't have it like that same day, so they ordered that, and I just went by myself and picked it up. Like, once again, a super quick, so quick, in and out, like, handed me papers. That was all. So yeah, so I got that through the funeral home. And something that kind of bothers me is that she has a death certificate, but in the state of Illinois, you don't get a birth certificate, which it sucks. I mean, I know she was not born alive, like, she never took a breath, but it still just hurts because it's like, how do you have a death certificate without a birth certificate? I know that some states have passed things where they do that, but Illinois is not one of them, so we only have a death certificate for her. I know I'm kind of all over the place. I was kind of sticking to the subject of like funeral home, all that, but kind of backtracking a little bit. You don't really think like, oh, you don't have a baby, like, what's postpartum like? The same if you had a living baby as far as physically. My milk came in probably about 5 days or so later, which is excruciatingly painful. I personally just like put a sports bra on for probably like 4 or 5 days it was, and kept it on, like, literally didn't take, I probably didn't even shower, didn't take it off, didn't touch my boobs, like nothing, because it was so painful, and you just have to let it dry up. It's horrible. Yeah, but that still happens. Your body had a baby, your body's milk comes in. And I know that some moms out there do donate breast milk, which I think is amazing, but for me personally, I let it dry up. And yeah, and as far as postpartum bleeding, same, you had a baby. Doesn't matter that the baby wasn't full term. She was only 32 weeks gestation, but your body's still gonna bleed because you had a baby, you're postpartum. She was only 3 pounds 8 ounces, so she was pretty tiny. So like, physically down there, like, it was much better than my previous 2 kids. So as far as like healing went, I feel like it was the easiest because she was tiny. So, but yeah, all that stuff still happens because you had a baby. Another really challenging part of postpartum physically is, as much as I said, like, the healing was much easier because she was tiny and all that. Postpartum, I weigh more than I have, like, ever while not being pregnant, so that has been a huge struggle for me. Like, just clothes don't fit. I want to wear jeans, but I have so many nice jeans and they just don't fit, and I don't want to go buy and spend money on new jeans. So it's just like a really big struggle, and I know that I would probably be just as hard on myself if Sailor were here. I just feel like it sucks 10 times more because now I have this body I hate and no baby to prove for it. Like, it's not even like she's here and it's like, well, this was the reward you get. Like, okay, you don't like your, like, how much you weigh, but you have a baby. Or, you know, it's just, like, talking to my therapist, and she wanted me to try, like, saying, like, one nice thing about myself a day, and it's difficult because I haven't really done that, because I would start to, like, I'd be like, oh, like, you know, my body grew a baby, and, like, how amazing that is, but then in my head, I turn around and lash back to myself that, yeah, you grew her, but your body also failed her. So it's just a huge struggle for me, and, I mean, I know it's just, like, eat healthier, work out, but, you know, depression is also hard, and it's just, you can't really win. It's not the end of the world, it's just difficult, and just being honest and transparent about that. My doctor, who I had not seen since she literally the night she delivered Sailor, left the room, like, didn't come check on me at all, didn't call the hospital, she left. She called me about 1 week postpartum and was asking how I was doing, which I was like, not well. But yeah, so, and then, because in the hospital she had told me that I would go in for like a 2-week postpartum visit and then the 6-week postpartum. So I asked her, I was like, well, so should I call and schedule a 2-week? And she was like, no, she's like, we'll just wait until we get the autopsy reports for you to come in, and then we can just talk then. I was like, oh, okay. Joey took, I think, a week off of work. Well, he was off like the Wednesday to Friday we were in the hospital, and then I believe he took like the next Monday to Friday off as well. So that was nice to have him home and just be like a family. We kind of, in those like early on days, because it was still September, it was pretty nice outside, so we spent a lot of time just out in the backyard, like letting the kids play. And I feel like I spent so much time outside crying. Joey would like playfully make fun of me, being like, oh, well, Rachel's outside crying again. And it was just like hard because it, like, watching my 2 kids run out and play and just thinking how Sailor should also be doing that with them, or looking at all the things that she'll never be able to play with, or the pool she'll never be able to swim in. And it's a million things you're grieving along with the death of your child. So it's just all those things. It's a million things that you sit and get to grieve. So yeah, I spent a lot of time crying. I think I was like keeping track for a while, because I cried every single day for I think like 21 days straight or something like that. It was, and then like that, I can remember like that first day I didn't cry. Like, I felt like I almost like had to force myself to cry, because like, this is what I do now, I cry. So that was like an odd thing that I felt like I had to cry. Not that our backyard is like full of nature, but just like the birds flying by, or just butterflies, or whatever it might be. Like, I just find nature and being outside to be just so healing. And there was like a lot of good sunsets. I'll put in some pictures. We took those. So just kind of watching the sunset and spending time with the kids, being outside, the fresh air. It's kind of just what I liked to do in those few days after, few weeks after. So, you know, you have a lot of people like reach out to you, and most are genuine, most are kind, but you also have some people who say really stupid things. I had one girl message me who was also pregnant and just decided to talk about how much stillbirth scared her, and like she was worried it was going to happen to her baby. So she wanted me to console her. Yeah, no thank you. Like, I mean, one, it's not contagious. It's you're fine probably, and I don't need to hear about how it scares you, because like yeah, it scares me too, and I dealt with it. So that was really annoying. You know, usually I give people the benefit of the doubt and I would respond to them because I think, oh, they're being so kind and reaching out, so I'd respond to them. But once they said something stupid, no, I didn't. I stopped. I also had another girl ask me if I had COVID, and I said, yeah, I did. And then she decided to take it upon herself to, you know, maybe assume that that was related to her cause of death. Like, as if I wanted to sit with somebody who's just an acquaintance and talk about the cause of my daughter's death. No. So, yeah, so I've definitely dealt with people saying stupid stuff. Winter is only in preschool, but she goes through our school district, so she does go 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, and she's gone from about like 12:30 to 4 o'clock. So it's not like a preschool that's only like 2 days a week or something. So it's very routine and scheduled. Yeah, she continued to go every day. Like, I didn't, even like the day after I had her and the day we came home from the hospital, like, she still went to school because just the importance of trying to keep things normal for her. Not that we weren't going to let emotions show, but that we just didn't want it to upset her day to day. Well, she didn't go to gymnastics like pretty much all of September, because between COVID and then like having Sailor, and I believe like the first week that she went back, I had Joey bring her because like I could not bring myself to face people. Like, it was like the same group of people every time, and you know, Joey doesn't have the big belly. I had a big pregnant belly, so like, I knew going in that somebody was going to notice and be like, oh my god, you had the baby. And pretty much that is what happened. I went in and we were kind of there, and like the one mom we'd always talk to, she kind of like didn't even notice. And then another dad we always would talk to, he kind of like, him and his daughter were like running a little bit late, and he like came running in and like sent her, like his daughter in like with her water and stuff, and then he was like about ready to run back out to the car, and he kind of looked at me and he's like, oh my god, you had the baby. And I was like, yeah. And then like I instantly started crying, and I said like she was stillborn, and like the mom we always talk to like turned around and was like, oh my god, like and he was like, I'm so sorry. He's like, oh my god, I'm so, and I was like, you wouldn't know. Like, you wouldn't know not to ask. Of course you'd ask. You had the baby, which, yeah, I had the baby. It just wasn't a positive outcome. So, he kind of went to his car and came back, and I was like, don't feel bad for asking. Like, you really didn't, you couldn't have known. There's no way. And so, I can tell he felt bad, and he was like genuinely sorry, but it was okay. I mean, it didn't bother me because, it bothered me because I ended up crying in public, which I hate doing, but it didn't bother me because like he did not intend to hurt me. But the thing I was worried about was her coach being like, oh my god, and like then like that week like her coach didn't say anything, and then I was like, now I have to come next week and still deal with that. But I ended up finding out that she had asked Winter, like, oh, when is your mom having the baby? And Winter was like, oh, the baby died in my mom's tummy. And I was like, That's gotta be hard to hear from a 4-year-old. Same thing happened with her speech therapist. Her speech therapist asked, how's the baby? And like, how's, like, you know, your mom's tummy, and Winter had to say the same thing. So that's a little tough, but, yeah, so we've kept, like, Winter's day-to-day normal, but, like, obviously, she talks about her, we talk about her, I cry about her. I'm very emotionally honest in front of my kids. I don't find it necessary to hide anything, so we keep that out in the open. Another thing is therapy. I feel like I've mentioned before in a previous video that I had a therapist already, so obviously I have been seeing her consistently, and I personally have not gone to like a support group or anything. I feel like there's not a ton around, and a lot of them include like miscarriage and stuff, which I'm not saying miscarriage is not a loss, it's just not the same type of loss. So it's, you know, the same as I might, you know, same as I wouldn't feel comfortable say with like, I'm not going to quite relate to somebody who has had their baby die from SIDS. Like, they're all just kind of their own category, so it's just a little difficult. I feel like I need something a little more specific, so I have not done any of that. And Joey has also started therapy, which I'm incredibly proud of him for doing that. That was like a huge step for him, and my therapist suggested another guy at the same place, and he loves him, so it's been extremely beneficial for him, and I love that he has that, that we both have that. I also came up with like a shirt design that I made with my Cricut, and I made it for like me, the kids, a few extended family members, and it's just like a Sunflowers for Sailor shirt. So, you know, just to keep myself a little busy and occupied and like doing something for her. So I made a few of those. I only have learned this since having Sailor, but October is National Infant and Pregnancy Loss Awareness Month, and October 15th is kind of like the day, and they do what's called the Wave of Light, where in your time zone from 7 to 8 p.m. you light a candle for that hour, and then you blow it out, and then obviously like the next time zone, so it like keeps going. So we did that at home, and like Joey and I literally spent the hour just like sitting on the staircase crying our eyes out. That was actually the 1 month since I had her too, so that was like a big deal. November 7th was Sailor's due date. It kind of felt like the ending of postpartum. It kind of felt like I'm always going to be counting the months of, oh, she'd be 3 months old, 4 months old, 5, you know, she'd be a year old, 3 years old. I'm always going to be counting that, but there's no longer that counting of like, I would be 37 weeks, I'd be 38 weeks, you know, like she's still supposed to be in me, she's still supposed to be inside me, my body should still be nourishing her, and it's not. So that was like a struggle in and of itself, of like kind of being in this weird period of like counting, like it's been 2 weeks since I've had her, it's been 4 weeks since I've had her, like all those, as well as like I would be this many weeks she should be inside me. It just was a bad combination. So now it will just be counting how old she'll be. But yeah, so it just kind of was like the finalization of she's not supposed to be inside me anymore. Like she would be here alive. So that day wasn't extremely hard. I mean, it was, but it wasn't like, I don't know, sometimes it's more like the leading up to the day is harder, and or just the more random days are hard. But I spent that day painting Sailor's bedroom. I never got around to painting it, so I was like, I'm doing this for her. As silly as that sounds, I just felt it in my heart that I had to finish it for her. So I painted her room white because her furniture was black and everything else was going to be like yellow and sunflowers. So I spent the day doing that. I'll be honest, I didn't quite finish it. My dad had to finish it the next day because I was so tired. I'd never painted a room before. I was not that good. It took me all day too, so I don't know. It was just kind of nice. Like, it kind of felt like I spent the day with her, like doing something for her and just kind of feeling her presence. Thank you so much for watching my postpartum after stillbirth video. It was another long video of me just talking, but I just like to be transparent about these topics that not a lot of people talk about, and you know, just the reality of my world. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.